Olivia turned to see Jake Nevin sneering at her, having just muttered into her ear. She frowned. "Jake, if you wanted to get this close to me, you should have just said so." He scoffed and took a step away. One of the paparazzi called out to Olivia, "Chairman Johnson, do you think you need to kill your stepmother before you give up?" Olivia was surprised that this person asked such a brazen question, but kept her composure. The crowd chattered in shock at the accusation that Olivia had been the one to orchestrate the prison attack on Rachel Cooper. Olivia sighed and spoke slowly like she was being patient with a child. "This suggestion is really interesting. So you think I took a car out to her prison, got some sort of weapon inside, and tried to take my stepmother's life? I'm in the middle of New York City with dozens to hundreds of people every day. I am working or going to school 7 days a week. When do you think I did this?" Muttering broke out throughout the room, but the paparazzi did not have any response. Devin Jarbaldi laughed. "If you want to add fuel to the fire, why haven't you thought this through? Come on now." She turned to Olivia. "There's no need to roll in the mud with them. They deliberately came to blindly make accusations." The paparazzi appealed to the crowd. "Just because Chairman Johnson is a smooth talker shouldn't make us rule her out. She sounds suspiciously unbothered by an attempt on her stepmother's life." "So what if I'm not bothered?" Olivia replied defiantly. "I don't mind saying it. I hate her. I hate Rachel Cooper. What's wrong with that?" Olivia's words made everyone in the room gasp simultaneously. Although there were always quiet rumblings about the grudges between and within wealthy families, it was unheard of for someone to announce publicly that they hated their stepmother. "Olivia!" Victoria's heart thumped and she broke out in a cold sweat. She couldn't believe Olivia had just said that. She wondered silently, isn't she normally so smart in these situations? "What did you say?" the paparazzi exclaimed. "Please say it again." He scrambled to start a recording on his phone. "So what if I say it again?" Olivia answered, stone-faced. "I hate Rachel Cooper. I would not forgive her, even if I were on my deathbed." The paparazzi's eyes lit up, knowing he had a potential gold mine on his hands. "No matter what, Rachel Cooper is your stepmother. That can't be good to say." Mark DeLillo sighed loudly. "Chairman Johnson's hostility is really taking me by surprise." The paparazzi held his recording phone closer to Olivia. "Can you tell me why you hate your stepmother so much? Is it—" He glanced in Victoria's direction. "What were you told about her? We all know the people who raise you can have a big effect on the way you think." Olivia nodded. "Of course. It is because of my family that I hate her." Francis whispered urgently, "Olivia, what are you doing?" He was so anxious that he was sweating. Olivia gave him a calm look back. "Can you explain in detail?" the paparazzi asked. Another one beside him took pictures of Olivia with his camera. Olivia remained cool as ice. "Yes. I've never mentioned this publicly before, but today you all chased me to the Handler Gala. This issue has become too big for me to remain private about it, I suppose. I also know that it will not be good for anyone if I do not explain it clearly." Michael frowned. Olivia. He knew she was wrong, but they were also used to the gossip rag spinning any detail into whatever story they wanted. He did not trust that giving them such sensitive details was a good idea. "What did they say to my mom outside?" Olivia asked her father. "I don't want this to continue any longer. I hate her." The paparazzi holding the phone out to Olivia urged her to continue. "Miss Johnson, tell us what you have to say." Olivia took a breath. "Rachel Cooper and I are not related by blood. We have only known each other for a year. Neither of us have any fond feelings for each other." "Is that so?" The paparazzi's eyes flashed with excitement. Mark could not suppress the joy in his heart as he thought to himself, Olivia is so damn stupid. Only Beatrix Cooper's eyes flashed with a touch of suspicion. Olivia, she thought silently. What is she going to do here? Olivia's tone became indignant. But my negative feelings are because of her malicious intentions. She wanted to kill my grandfather. She and her daughter plotted together to murder him. She is hypocritical and she is heartless. Everyone was stunned. What? Echoed around the crowd. What did Olivia just say? Olivia continued. I will never forgive Rachel and Monica Cooper for the rest of my life. I will never forgive the murderers who wanted to kill my grandfather, Jack Johnson. Everyone continued muttering to each other. Mark looked around in anger as he watched the crowd turn in Olivia's favor. They were clearly siding with her at that moment. No, he whispered to himself. This damn Olivia. He called out, cutting through the noise. Chairman Johnson, if you and your grandfather have such a good relationship, then why did you steal the Johnson Company from him and change its name to the Park Company? Steal? Olivia repeated in surprise. Is that what Mr. DeLillo thinks of me? It wasn't just Mark who thought so, the whole city had. But since Olivia asked it so innocently, nobody dared defy her out loud, and some were even convinced by her display. Mark stammered, No, I heard some rumors. Olivia shook her head. I think we all know how well those can be trusted. Well, I suppose all of us except Mr. DeLillo. I am really curious how long he can manage the Rose Company as its president. She stared Mark down with disdain. My grandfather has always wanted to pass the Johnson Company down to someone else in the family. He moved to London to start new ventures there. Everyone knew the situation the Johnson Company was in when he left. Things weren't looking so good. So I just wanted to help him turn things around as his granddaughter. The paparazzi squinted. Wait, if that's the case, then why did you change the Johnson Company name to the Park Company? Olivia shrugged as though it were obvious. Because my mom's maiden name is Park. If I didn't change it to Park, what should I have changed it to? Jake Nevin, unable to contain his frustration any longer, shouted. Olivia could just have kept the original name of the Johnson Company, obviously. Olivia winced. Jake Nevin, to put it bluntly, I'm very worried about the future of the Nevin family in the New York City Chamber of Commerce at this moment. If you don't know how to run a business, it's best to concentrate on learning. She rolled her eyes. If you want to quickly save the stock value of a publicly traded company, what is the simplest and most convenient way? Jake was speechless. Olivia had backed him into a corner. Of course, he knew that changing names was the fastest way to accomplish that. Olivia sighed. I always try to give other people the benefit of the doubt before second-guessing them when I don't know the whole story. But I feel like I often do not get the same consideration, and it is very disappointing. Though Olivia's truths had some falsehoods mixed in, she also gave a perfect explanation that made people unable to find fault with it. As a bonus, everyone was also doubting Jake Nevin's intelligence and ability at the same time. Cornelia put her arm around Olivia's shoulder. Olivia, it's fine. I believe that you're the most loving child in the world. We don't have to listen to the thoughts of people with bad intentions. Everything about how this had gone spelled failure for Mark DeLillo's Gallup plans. His eyes twitched as he thought, how is she so damn crafty? She's like a slippery eel. Mark gritted his teeth and gave the paparazzi a look. Even if Olivia had shined up her reputation during this event, they still had a recording. It would be easy to use it to destroy Olivia's reputation in New York City. Mark gave the man with the recording a nod, and he nodded back. Chris Jones raised his whiskey glass. Listen up. You have photos and recordings. But if anyone spreads it to the media, any media outlet at all, what happened today? After a pause, he smiled devishly. You will have me to answer to. The paparazzi looked at Chris and they were stunned. When they saw the threatening look in his eyes, they immediately all looked away and hurried to leave the hall as soon as they could. Olivia casually picked up a wine glass and raised her glass to Mark DeLillo, his face white as a sheet. She smiled at him and thought to herself, I love seeing this look on your face. The look of you wanting me to die, but not being able to do it. You got your wish in our last life, but this time, I'll be the one standing over your dead body. This evil hag, Mark thought angrily to himself. This demoness, what is she so damn proud of? Across the room, Beatrix Cooper's mouth twitched into an almost imperceptible smile. Watching Olivia essentially publicly spank Mark DeLillo put her in a good mood. She hoped that his suffering such a huge loss when he thought he had such a brilliant plan for the night would hopefully help him grow a brain. Beatrix's footsteps were light and slow as she approached Mark. "President DeLillo, how are you?" Mark turned toward her angrily. "What did you say?" He was already furious with Olivia, but when he saw Beatrix Cooper looking at him without sympathy, he felt like she was the ugliest thing he could have seen at that moment. He lamented that he had taken such a good step forward just to end up like this. It was all the Cooper family's fault. Rachel Cooper was also an idiot. She had actually attacked her own father-in-law, Jack Johnson, and given Olivia perfect ammunition to deal him a devastating blow that night. Beatrix was disappointed by Mark's attitude, but not surprised. "I have already warned you that Olivia is not a simple person. I hope that you'll want to collaborate with me on how to move forward." Beatrix knew, of course, that if Mark ever wanted to defeat Olivia, he'd need to listen to her advice. She did not know whether he ever would. Mark snorted but kept his angry thoughts inside. "I have my plans foiled once again, and she wants to come gloat and point fingers at me. She's just some chick who uses her looks to get what she needs. Does she really think she's that powerful?" Beatrix saw Mark's contemptuous look and her hand hanging at her side squeezed into a fist. Even in this situation, she thought, after losing so badly, Mark still doesn't know how to restrain himself. What an idiot. Mark heaved a sigh, irritated. "Miss Cooper, I know what to do. Just focus on doing your job." He strode past Beatrix and walked to another part of the room. Beatrix smiled stiffly. A sinister desire flashed through her mind. She wanted to hurt Mark DeLillo. She looked in Olivia's direction and sighed. Mark really thought he could defeat Olivia. She thought silently, "Dream on." She wanted to see how long Mark DeLillo could spiral downward. Beatrix watched Olivia smile sweetly and act demure to the many people gathered around her. "Oh, Olivia," she thought internally. "Enjoy feeling arrogant tonight. You only have this little window of opportunity to do it." Olivia noticed Beatrix sizing her up and met her gaze. She smirked at Beatrix. Olivia thought that very intelligent people could often be self-righteous and headstrong. Beatrix was a perfect example. Olivia looked forward to seeing what kind of joke of a next move would come out of Beatrix and Mark's teamwork after this. She wanted to know when Beatrix would finally not be able to stand Mark's stupidity and self-sabotage any longer. She loved watching two of her enemies threaten to destroy each other. Beatrix looked elsewhere, but still watched Olivia's every move from the corner of her eye. Olivia knew Beatrix was just pretending not to watch her. She lowered her head and smiled. Olivia turned to Violet Cartwright in her curve-hugging, blood-red dress. They exchanged a nod. Beatrix Cooper witnessed the nod. Her eyes narrowed and she observed even more carefully. Violet carried a glass of champagne straight to Mark DeLillo. Beatrix shifted her attention to that glass of champagne and pressed her lips together in concern. This innocent-looking glass of bubbly would be a problem. Mark looked relieved to see Violet walking toward him. He thought that something could be salvaged from this terrible night after all. Since Violet was Olivia's executive assistant, she should be properly reeled in and used to his advantage. "Miss Cartwright, you are a sight for sore eyes. Thank you for coming over. I really need a friendly face." Violet smiled back at him, knowing she was giving him a look that men like him thought of as alluring, demure and shy. "I'm not just here to be a friendly face, Mr. DeLillo. Your integrity and understanding of this whole crazy situation have made me admire you even more than I did before." You're so young and wildly successful, but still have such a sense of justice. You're a rare breed of man these days, unfortunately. Mark found that his previous rage was melting away with her flattery. You really see me that way. You're magical, Miss Cartwright. Didn't you see the icy reception I'm getting from the rest of this crowd? He gestured around them. Violet shrugged. A real genius isn't appreciated right away. It makes sense that the way you see things is incomprehensible to most of them. Mr. DeLillo, you don't have to take it to heart. Mark focused on Violet's eyes and looked deeply into them. You are the perfect woman, you know that? Truly, you're perfect in every way. Violet pretended to be shy and avoided Mark's eyes. Mr. DeLillo, she breathed, acting overwhelmed. What a compliment. She looked at the glass in her hand as though she had just remembered it. Mr. DeLillo, you chose that amazing pink cocktail for me before. I was wondering if I could return the favor with a glass of champagne. Could I give this to you? He looked at the glass and was stunned for a moment. The last time he thought about champagne was when he was completely drenched by the drugged champagne that Devin Garibaldi had so carelessly splashed onto him. His shirt wasn't even completely dry yet. He wondered why Violet brought him another glass. He narrowed his eyes, thinking that she might deliberately be humiliating him or making some other underhanded, passive-aggressive female move like that. Oh. Violet blinked and looked away from him, her eyes downcast. Mr. DeLillo, you don't like it, I'm so sorry. I just saw the glasses of champagne when I was trying to choose something I thought you'd like. I thought at a glance that it was perfect for you. Mark looked at her with doubt and caution. Oh? He asked. Well, it's a classic, she said, watching its bubbles rise. It's popular. It means luxury, celebration, triumph. I have known many successful people who also enjoy it through their difficult times, because it reminds them that there will be triumph again. Mark watched her describe it, his eyes wide. It resonated deeply with him, making him feel seen exactly the way he wanted to be seen. He felt understood. Violet continued, So I truly am sorry that you don't like it, but that is why it makes me think of you. And that is why I said that Miss Cartwright is my confidant. Mark shook his head, laughing lightly. He took the glass of champagne from Violet's hand. She wrung her hands. Mr. DeLillo, it's okay if you don't like it. I can go find another drink. I have some other ideas. Mark squeezed her arm. Absolutely not. This is a home run, Miss Cartwright. And being handed champagne by a beautiful girl, it's bad luck not to drink it. He raised the glass to his lips and downed it all at once. Violet watched him drink the champagne. The corner of her mouth twitched as she wanted to smile but suppressed it. She returned her face to the expression of a very young woman who was unfamiliar with the world and men like him. But Beatrix Cooper saw that millisecond of a smile on Violet's face. She laughed lightly as her disdain for Mark flared up. She knew that there was indeed a problem with that glass of champagne. He wouldn't have been doomed if he were just stupid. Beatrix thought silently. What doomed him is his arrogance. He doesn't see his own shortcomings. If he knew he wasn't smart, he could compensate for it. Listen to someone else. He deserves to lose to Olivia at every step of the way. Beatrix politely excused herself and moved to leave the gala. Olivia watched Beatrix Cooper's disappearing back as she headed towards the doors. She smiled lightly and took a sip of her drink. Olivia had used her power to read Beatrix's mind. She knew that Beatrix had seen Mark drink the champagne he shouldn't drink. But strangely, Olivia knew that Beatrix had enjoyed it. Beatrix, oh Beatrix, she thought. As his partner, shouldn't you have stopped him? This is not good for old Marky boy. Olivia thought happily that with Beatrix refusing to protect her partner, that must mean the mysterious man didn't have as much control over his soldiers as he thought he did. Devin frowned at Olivia, seeing her mind work furiously. Olivia, what are you thinking about? Olivia smiled, narrowing her eyes. Devin, do you remember the waiter who pushed you? We need to find her. Devin eyed Olivia curiously. What are you planning now? Devin wondered silently. What else do you have in store for us? Yeah, I do remember the waitress that pushed me. Devin realized after thinking about it. The one Mark obviously paid to do it. We need to find her and get her to the room we have reserved upstairs. If she was willing to help Mark, that probably means she's easy to bribe. I think we can offer her more than whatever Mark offered in exchange for a different type of job. Olivia explained. If Mark wants to make headlines out of the Johnson family, he'll get his big headlines all right. Olivia mused to herself. Got it, Devin said with a casual little salute. She moved to the other side of the room and took out her phone to make some calls. Olivia found Sven and, staring him off to the side, she leaned in and whispered her plan into Sven's ear. The expression on Sven's face went from curiosity to surprise, and finally to excitement. He gave an enthusiastic thumbs up. I am so down. Great. I hoped you would say that. I'll leave the rest to you. Olivia smiled. I can always count on Sven to be up for joining in on clever plans. She thought to herself. I like the sound of that. You got it. Sven nodded. There were two things Sven hated most: surprise parties and sitting on the sidelines. It was always best if he could participate in elaborate plans and have a little control. He was very good at it. Sven turned around and got to work on his directives. He looked so excited, as if he had just been given a favorite treat. Have fun, Olivia called after him. Olivia covered her mouth to stifle her affectionate laughter. Sven really loves executing secret plots. More than anyone I've ever met, she thought. Now I know what to get him for Christmas. Suddenly, Olivia felt an arm wrap around her waist from behind. I know that smile. Who are you plotting against this time? Chris said quietly into Olivia's ear. I would never just randomly plot against someone. Olivia pretended to sound defensive. She turned around and gently leaned her head on Chris's shoulder. I only give people a taste of their own medicine. This time it happens to be Mark and Jake. Fair is fair. Chris raised an eyebrow curiously at Olivia. She grinned and stood up on her tiptoes while she whispered her plan in his ear. Oh, you're very devious. Chris laughed and affectionately touched the tip of Olivia's nose. Have fun. Not too devious, though, right? Olivia tilted her head curiously. Very devious, like a devil lady. Chris struggled to come up with a word that was on theme while still sounding sexy. A devil lady? I thought you were going to go with witch or something. Devil lady is an interesting choice. Olivia laughed. She raised her chin to look up at Chris's face. Aren't you afraid I might corrupt you? She asked flirtatiously and tugged gently on his shirt. Afraid? Chris chuckled and his eyes lingered on Olivia's lips. If you're a witch, I'll be a wizard. A bad wizard. However bad you are, I'll be bad too. We'll be bad together is what I mean, Chris said in a half-joking, seductive voice. Olivia looked into Chris's adoring, playful eyes and she felt her heart melt. Very tender feelings bubbled up in her chest. But Olivia was horrible at being vulnerable and sincere with those things, so she continued to joke around. So you're the wizard? She raised an eyebrow teasingly. Yes. Why are you laughing? This is very serious. Chris pretended to be mad but laughed too. I'll take you to my bad wizard castle, Chris whispered into Olivia's ear. And since you're my little witch, we'll do bad things together. What if I try to leave? Olivia asked in a playful, sultry voice. No, you won't be able to resist all the bad stuff we do because you'll like it too much. You'll stay there with me for the rest of your life, and I'll take care of you and feed you whatever you want. Chris said. That doesn't sound so bad, Olivia said skeptically. Trust me, it'll still be very bad. Because I know you like being bad and I'll do whatever you want. Especially the bad things. Chris said in a low voice as he gently kissed her neck. Even joking, Chris's deep voice whispering to her about doing bad things was surprisingly thrilling to Olivia. Her heart began to beat faster, and her whole chest felt warm. The spot on her neck where he had kissed sent an electric jolt through her. At that moment, Olivia finally knew what it meant to desperately want every part of another person. Her face flushed, and she did not know what to say back to him. Chris chuckled at himself, but he noticed Olivia's hungry look in her eyes and the shy, flustered blush in her cheeks. Her eyes softened, and seeing her look at him that way drove him crazy. He rarely got glimpses of her true, vulnerable feelings, but when he did, it was irresistible. Not far away, Georgina Crawford caught a glimpse of Olivia and Chris lost in their own world together. The way they looked at each other with such affection and longing sent Georgina out of her mind with jealousy. She clenched her fists tightly at her sides and cursed Olivia over and over in her mind. Why can Olivia Johnson have that, but I can't? She's a fake person and must have tricked Chris into liking her, just like she tricked everyone else in this town. Georgina fumed. Who knows what she was willing to do to seduce Chris Jones? Georgina's internal furious rant was interrupted by her mother, Jessica, who flagged her down and called her over. Georgina was briefly shaken out of her tirade, and she obediently joined her mother. What's wrong, sweetie? Jessica asked. She could immediately tell from Georgina's sour expression that something was bothering her. She also thought her daughter looked less pretty when she frowned, which was unfortunately often. Mom! Georgina started to whine, but she could barely speak. She was so angry at Olivia that she wanted to cry. Georgina! Her mother quickly pulled her into a side room that was empty. Don't cry, everything will be all right. You'll mess up your makeup. Tell me what happened. Georgina gritted her teeth and frowned at the ceiling to stop her eyes from watering. Why is Olivia the worst? She doesn't care about anyone but herself, and she has no shame. Jessica took in the sight of her daughter, and she took her firmly by the shoulders. You're jealous of her? Jealous? Of Olivia as if... Georgina scoffed and turned away, unwilling to admit it. She's nothing. Why would I be jealous of that spoiled brat? Georgina, feeling jealous is a normal human emotion. There's no reason to be embarrassed about it, but you should just put everything you have into focusing on something else. Mom, I know what to do! Georgina snapped impatiently as she interrupted her mother. You can't constantly be analyzing me just because you're a psychologist. I'm sick of hearing your exhausting bits of wisdom. All right, I hear you. I'll try to be more mindful of my impact. Her mother apologized. See, you're even doing it now. Georgina rolled her eyes. Olivia might seem happy now, but things catch up with people eventually. You just have to try to ignore her and focus on the plan to marry the Handler boy. And once that's all settled, you'll be happy too. Mom! Georgina pursed her lips impatiently. I don't want to marry Francis. You don't want to? Jessica asked incredulously. She couldn't imagine what had possibly changed in such a short time. Why? Because I fell in love with Chris Jones, Georgina admitted. From the moment I saw him at the gala, I couldn't take my eyes off of him. Georgina's mother's face froze. No, she gasped. What do you mean no? Why not him? Georgina asked, stunned by her mother's reaction. She thought her mother would agree because Chris was from a wealthy family, not to mention very handsome. This was supposed to be good news. Chris Jones is Olivia Johnson's fiancé, Jessica hissed. The problem with Chris Jones should be obvious, she thought, but didn't say out loud. This is not the time to make Olivia our enemy. So they're just engaged, not actually married. People break off engagements all the time. Georgina sniffed. She recalled the time at the gala and felt her stomach burn with jealousy again. You don't know about the Jones family. We do not want to get mixed up with them. Jessica insisted. Remember why we made the plan in the first place? Francis's mother is a member of the Watson family. Francis is a much better match for you. You'd be connected to one of the 4 great families. I don't care about the 4 families or any of the families. I only care about Chris Jones. Georgina wailed and she stomped her foot. What does my dumb mom not understand about this? She thought. How about this? Jessica took a deep, patient breath and tried to soothe her daughter. You win over Francis first. Then, once you're married to him, you can always start something with Chris Jones on the side. I won't stop you. But you'd have to be extremely careful. You've seen what's already happened before when you've crossed Olivia Johnson. You just don't stand a chance against what Olivia is capable of once she's got you in her crosshairs. Georgina was speechless, hearing her mother say she did not think she was any match for Olivia Johnson. On the other hand, just being Francis's girlfriend would be much easier to handle. Jessica gently reasoned. She knew that she could not directly tell Georgina what to do, or forbid her from doing anything. If she ever drew a hard line, it would only make Georgina want to cross it. It would be much more effective to guide her with suggestions and hope that it felt like her own idea. You can think of it as using Francis as practice before going after Chris. She shrugged. I guess so when you put it that way. Georgina nodded. Francis is nowhere near as good as Chris Jones, but using him as practice isn't such a bad idea. Georgina thought. I'll also teach that annoying nerdy girl Lena a lesson. That's my girl, Jessica said as she patted her on the shoulder. You are smart and cute. You're in incredible shape and everyone knows you're gorgeous. You're a catch. Georgina couldn't help giggling from her mom's praise, and she wiped away her tears. Her miserable, angry thoughts instantly floated away, and she felt good again about the new plan. When Georgina and her mother returned to the main ballroom, Georgina saw Francis and Lena smiling and talking to each other. She looked at them and smirked. Go ahead and chat all you want. Soon Francis will be mine. I bet it will take me 3 months tops. Georgina sized up Lena once more, then thought, I only need 1 month to steal Francis away from Lena. Then you'll be kicked to the curb like the dog you are. The live band began to play energetic salsa music, and an MC encouraged everyone out to the dance floor. Chris made a show of extending his hand and bowing like an old-fashioned gentleman to Olivia. May I have the honor of this dance? He grinned. You may. Olivia smiled and took Chris's hand. Thank you. Chris grinned and took Olivia's hand. Do you know how to salsa dance? He asked. Not really. Olivia shrugged, but followed him to the floor anyway. I'll show you, Chris said as he positioned one hand on her waist and held her hand with the other. Where did you learn salsa dancing? Olivia wondered. She had never heard Chris mention it before. I took a class with Sven once as an elective. It was fun, Chris said. That's a very fun mental image, Olivia laughed. Chris began showing Olivia how to do the steps along with the beat. He would step forward while she stepped back before returning to the center, then vice versa. The other guests on the dance floor recognized the now famous couple that made headlines with their romance and politely gave them room. No one said anything, but they smiled knowingly. That's nice, Lena said from off to the side of the dance floor. She watched Chris guide Olivia through a twirl before Olivia lost her balance a little and they laughed. It's so romantic, Lena sighed. Do you like to dance? Once your leg is healed, I would totally dance with you, Francis offered. Dancing? Oh, no, not me. I just love seeing other people dance. Lena laughed. If you really want to see me dance, I can have my game avatar dance for you in the game. The controller commands are very simple. Frances was speechless for a moment. Did Lena really say what I think she just said? On the other side of the ballroom, Violet stood with Mark and waited for the drug to take effect. This song is fun. Do you know the name of it? Violet asked Mark pleasantly. In her mind, she was feeling impatient. Shouldn't this stuff have kicked in by now? Why is it taking so long? I think it's called Viva Mi Vida, Mark said distractedly. He picked up a glass of ice water and gulped it down. Even though he was not dancing, he suddenly felt very sweaty for some strange reason. Violet saw the sweat that collected on Mark's brow and the way he knocked back the ice water. She smiled, satisfied at the evident results. Wow, Mark, you really know your music. Mark laughed and he pretended to be humble. I try. He felt the heat spread from the back of his neck. The cold sweat intensified and his heart raced. A sinking feeling of dread slowly came over him. Mark looked over at Violet, suddenly suspicious. That glass of champagne you just gave me, where did you get it? Violet pretended to be confused by his question, blinked as she thought about it, and then pointed to where Devin Garibaldi had been when they were arguing earlier. I got the glass of champagne from the bar over there. Why? Over there? Mark asked with dread as he put the pieces together. When he recalled Jake Nevin's smug look, Mark became so angry his whole body shook. Jake Nevin promised me that champagne Devin Garibaldi spilled was the poison glass. If I had known that idiot was talking out of his ass, I never would have drank the champagne that Violet gave me. Mark, are you all right? You look a little pale. Violet stepped forward and supportively took Mark's arm. As soon as Violet touched Mark's arm, he felt a jolt of electricity from the spot where she touched his skin. It rushed over his entire body, and he felt as though his skin became too tight. Mark cried out in alarm, and his heart pounded in his ears. He staggered away from Violet. I don't feel well. I have to go. Oh. Violet nodded understandingly. That's no good. I hope you feel better. Thanks, Mark muttered before he stumbled his way towards the exit. He concentrated as hard as he could on moving one leg at a time. He felt almost completely out of control. What is happening to me? Violet watched Mark leave, and her smirk was filled with disdain. She turned her attention to Olivia, who was in the middle of the dance floor, and caught her eye. She winked at Olivia to signal the job was done. Olivia saw Violet's wink and understood. She smiled, satisfied. Suddenly, she felt Chris's hand on her waist gently pull her closer to him until they were nearly up against each other. Her eyes widened. Chris? You seem distracted. I'm just trying to get your attention. Chris whispered in Olivia's ear. It's working. Olivia laughed and moved even closer, pressing her upper body against his chest. Chris's breath caught in his throat and his heart beat faster. Don't tease me. Who's teasing? I'm just focusing like you asked. You have my attention. Olivia smirked. Chris raised an eyebrow suggestively. Do you know what you're getting into? Maybe. Olivia saw the desire in Chris's eyes and enjoyed how powerful she felt. She backed off a little before things got too heated. The song ended, but she stayed close in his arms. While the crowd applauded for the band, Olivia wrapped her arms around Chris's neck and kissed him. She felt his arms pull her to him, and her heart skipped a beat. She quickly let go and took a step back, catching her breath. She winked at Chris flirtatiously before she turned and walked away toward Lena. Chris remained speechless as he watched Olivia walk away. He tried to calm down after all of the excitement. She gets me all worked up and then leaves just like that. Olivia does not fight fair. Chris felt even crazier about her. Lena smiled at Olivia. That looked like you were having a lot of fun. Teasing Chris, then running away is really fun, I have to admit. Olivia smiled mischievously and gave a thumbs up. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Well done. Lena nodded in awe as she returned the thumbs up. You might be the only person I know who can pull that off. Olivia laughed and gazed past Lena towards the entrance to the gala. She saw Devin Jarbaldi walk in with a satisfied smile on her face. She nodded at Olivia. Everything appeared to be under control. Olivia nodded back and pulled out her phone to dial Sven's number. Everything is set. Time to call the police. You got it, Sven smiled. How exciting is this? We should make plans more often. Olivia hung up and the gala began to wind down. Guests began to say their farewells to Francis's parents and took their leave. As people left the gala, they saw a horde of police cars parked outside the hotel. People shouted in confusion as they tried to make sense of the tense scene. There was also a large group of reporters waiting to the side. There was so much chaos and no one understood what the fuss was about. What's going on? A guest asked. I'm not sure. I thought I heard an officer say someone reported some illegal activity in the hotel, and they're here to make an arrest. Another onlooker replied. This party almost made it all the way through without major excitement. Another guest exclaimed. After some time, a disheveled man missing his tie and wearing a shirt that had a lot of the buttons undone was escorted out by the police, with a jacket thrown over his head to conceal his face. Behind the man, they brought out a woman with her face covered as well, and she wore only a towel. Is that the culprit? A reporter asked. Who knows? Another shrugged. Hey! Devin Jarbaldi shouted from the middle of the crowd and pointed at the arrested man. That man also has champagne stains all over him. It's the same place where I spilled champagne on Mark DeLillo. She looked around curiously. Has anyone seen Mark DeLillo? Could it be just a coincidence? Everyone was stunned when they realized the implications of Devin's words. It must be President DeLillo. Suddenly, the jacket over Mark's face slipped off, and the crowd's suspicions were confirmed. The crowd erupted in gasps and frenzied chatter. They looked from Mark to the practically naked woman behind him, and it was easy to understand what must have happened. Mark DeLillo is too young to be getting into trouble like this. He got drunk and acted recklessly. If they're being arrested, he must have paid that woman. People began shouting accusations and guesses as to what Mark and the woman had done. Behind the chaotic crowd, Olivia stood completely cool and collected, smiling to herself. I can't wait to see what tomorrow's news headlines will be, she thought. Porter questioned. Mark blinked and once again saw that he was being escorted to a car by his bodyguards and assistant out of the police station. Mr. DeLillo, will your personal scandal do any damage to the Rose Company? Another reporter shouted. The mob of reporters only grew more aggressive. Is the rumor true? Did you really pay the woman who you already employ as a caterer $20,000 for sex? Did you exert your professional power over her as a boss to intimidate her into this relationship? Do you suffer from sex addiction? Mr. DeLillo! Mr. DeLillo! Mark's face darkened and his entire body tensed up with anger. His bodyguards and assistant shouted responses to the crowd. He's not taking questions at this time. There will be a press conference later with Mr. DeLillo's lawyer present. Sorry, excuse us, make way, make way. Mark's team pushed back the reporters on either side of him as they carefully guided Mark to the car that waited for him. The car door opened and Mark lowered his head as he climbed in. Once the door closed, the chaotic noise outside was finally muted. It was much calmer inside. Onlookers, reporters, and paparazzi still surrounded the car, and cameras flashed all around as people pounded on the windows. The driver honked the car for the crowd to disperse and carefully pulled forward. They were somewhat trapped by the throng of people. Mark's entire body was tense, and an ugly, wild scowl spread over his face. That was a complete disaster. I've never been more humiliated in my life. Mark fumed in his mind. This is the kind of thing that should have happened to Olivia. She's the one who should be dodging reporters' disgusting questions and hated by everyone. How did this happen? What the hell went so wrong? I thought everything through so carefully. My plan was perfect. I figured out the Johnson family's weakness. I had all of the pieces in place to bring them down. And I even bought off the people at the hotel all the way to the top. This is impossible. President DeLillo. Mark's assistant looked at him with an embarrassed expression. The whole business, it might have an effect on the Rose Company. We have to arrange a press conference to do some damage control as soon as possible. I know, Mark DeLillo said as he took in a deep breath and closed his eyes. His head was still swimming from whatever had been in that champagne. I arranged everything perfectly. Mark still thought again and again. The only problem was Jake Nevin. If Jake had not gone off on his own and improvised drugging Olivia's wine, she would not have been so on her toes and prepared to disrupt my plan. If he hadn't misplaced that stupid wine and misled me about Devin Garibaldi having it, all of the chaos that followed would not have happened, and I wouldn't be in this position. And where is that idiot now? How am I suffering all the consequences of his foolish mistakes? None of this should be happening to me, all because of that useless piece of garbage, Jake Nevin. He has completely ruined my reputation, and I'm going to lose everything. The mysterious man was right. I should have gone after his brother, Jared. Mark regretted that mistake. He hesitated at first because he had already poured so much money and resources into recruiting Jake Nevin, and the sunk cost fallacy had gotten the best of him. He didn't want to let Jake go just like that after all of that effort. But now Mark kicked himself for that fatal mistake. A cold, determined look came over Mark then as he realized what needed to be done. I'm going to kill Jake Nevin. As soon as possible. That's the only course of action. Let's hold the press conference tomorrow. We'll have to explain what happened. Mark's assistant struggled to say the controversies out loud. It was too awkward. He had been in this career for some time, but it was still the first time he had ever encountered a scandal like this. He had never worked for someone like Mark DeLillo. He's so young, the assistant thought as he looked at Mark. He's just barely becoming an adult. He's still way too impulsive. We're not doing it tomorrow. Mark frowned. Let's do it the day after tomorrow. The day after tomorrow? Mark's assistant frantically consulted the calendar. That's when we'll do it, the day after tomorrow. Set it up and clear my schedule for tomorrow night, too. Mark commanded. But tomorrow night... The assistant frowned at the calendar. No buts. I have you here to solve problems, not argue with me and create new ones. Mark barked coldly. Right. Okay. The assistant gritted his teeth and nodded. He sighed, resigned. I'll clear your schedule for tomorrow night and move the press conference to the following day. Thank you, Mark said irritably and looked out the window at the city as they drove past. The downtown area was bustling with city lights and energy. Mark reflected on his situation. The Rose family was very powerful in this city. If it wasn't for the Johnson family sabotaging me, the Rose family would still be in power. Why did my mother send me away from home to grow up away from the family? I've had enough of all these years of not having the respect and status I deserve. When I came back to New York City this time, I was going to restore the Rose family to its former glory. I was going to make them even better than they ever were. The Roses could be the #1 family in New York City with my help, and I would be the one at the top. The most powerful business leader in the United States, even. This is the one thing I've always cared about. And it was the final wish of my father and his father before. I'm not done. I don't care what it takes or how much it costs. I will not stop until I have succeeded. So, Mr. DeLillo, about your plans for tomorrow night. Mark's assistant hesitantly interrupted Mark's internal musings. Tomorrow night I will meet with the youngest brother of the Nevin family, Mark said. He did not take his eyes away from the city out of the window. Book us the presidential suite at the hotel. Yes, sir, the assistant said as he warily eyed Mark. Ever since the scandal had broken, He felt very awkward around his boss. He had no idea what other trouble Mark DeLillo was capable of. Across town, the very same Jared Nevin sat at a table with Jeff Dreyer at the Hidden Tea House. Jared was about to say something when he suddenly sneezed. "Are you all right?" Jeff asked Jared. "I'm fine, just got a tickle in my nose." Jared said, "Earlier today, Mark DeLillo." Jeff laughed. Yes, he finally got what he deserved. Jeff nodded, unable to hide his pleasure in Mark's misfortune. "Well, that too, but there's also the—" Jared trailed off. He remembered the things Mark had said about being into Dracula, and it made him cringe. "You mean the whole Dracula fanfiction thing?" Jeff asked. "Yeah, and it seemed like he wanted to get together and talk about it more. He seemed to think I would be interested in that." Jared shrugged. "Even if it was just to talk about Dracula, I have a feeling Mark has less than completely innocent intentions in having a meeting with you. He's always up to no good." Jeff frowned. "Yeah, I don't want to go," Jared said. When Jared thought about sitting around with Mark talking about Dracula and whatever weird stuff he got up to being the best-case scenario for their interaction, it gave Jared a bad feeling in his gut. There was no way the meeting would be anything but bad news. At best, it was a strange misunderstanding about a hobby they did not have in common. And at worst, it was a bizarre excuse to try and rope him into some nefarious business dealings. Anyone who wants to work with my brother obviously has no business sense, Jared thought. I don't want anything to do with them. "Why not go, Jared?" Olivia asked as she approached with a plate of mouth-watering tea cakes. She set the exquisite plate on the table and sat down with Jeff and Jared. She smiled and said, "It sounds like Mark DeLillo is trying to recruit you." "Recruit me? Isn't he already working with Jake?" Jared frowned. "What is Mark's game?" "He probably realized that Jake is a complete liability and a total douche, if you don't mind me saying." Olivia smiled. "No offense taken." Jared sighed. Olivia nodded. "I've known that about him from the beginning. He's not the sharpest tool in the shed. Honestly, he's a disaster waiting to happen." Jared could not argue, and instead he nodded back. It felt good to hear someone else say it out loud, especially someone he respected. "I think you should go and just see what he says. He can't force you to accept anything. It just might cost you an hour improvising about vampires." Olivia laughed. "I guess so," Jared considered. Jeff picked up the teapot and poured some tea for each of them. "Thank you," Olivia nodded. "Of course." Jeff smiled. "You're the one providing the delicious tea." He took a sip and grinned as the flavor cascaded into his mouth after he swallowed. Jared couldn't shake the worried feeling in the back of his mind. He looked up at Olivia. "I need to know, Olivia, what do you think Mark DeLillo is really up to?" "Mark is clearly trying to win you over, Jared," Olivia said with a smile. Jared must be so used to always being overlooked, she thought. He can't even believe that anyone recognizes his talent. "But," Jared protested, "why would I spend any time with Mark DeLillo if he's so terrible?" Even though Mark DeLillo is a fool with a weak mind, he does have money and real power in New York City ever since he returned on behalf of the Rose family, Olivia reasoned. "If you can build a rapport with him and gain his support at the same time as you work with us, you'll have a better chance of overtaking your brother Jake's place in the Nevin Company." Jared looked at Olivia with a doubtful expression. "But aren't you worried that I might betray you and go with him instead? After all, Jake is my brother, my own family," Jared said, confused. "Am I worried that you'd go rogue?" Olivia smiled, amused by his question. "Of course not. Even if you did turn on us to fully join Team Mark DeLillo, he's not the rival I'm actually worried about." Olivia paused for a moment before she continued. "The one who does have me concerned is Beatrix." "Beatrix?" Jeff searched through his memory, trying to recall the name. "She's from the Cooper family, right?" "Yes," Olivia nodded. "Do you know her?" "I've met her a few times. She is a very clever and calculating woman." Jeff chuckled as he thought about it. She is definitely smarter than Mark DeLillo. Not that that's a high bar to clear. So, Olivia continued as she dipped her finger into her water and placed 3 droplets onto the table. Say this is Mark DeLillo. This one is Beatrix Cooper, and this one is Jake Nevin. She explained as she pointed to each drop of water. She drew her finger between each dot so that it formed a triangle of water. Each of these 3 people are working together, and they have their own strengths and weaknesses. Together, they have the potential to be a strong trio. Triangles also happen to be the strongest shape, but only if they're constructed correctly. Okay. Jeff and Jared both nodded to show they were following. The best thing for you to do now would be to replace Jake in the triangle, Olivia said as she pointed at the corner of the triangle that represented Jake. If I do somehow manage to do that, then what would I do? Jared asked, uncertain but intrigued. You learn as much as you can about their inner workings and what they're up to. All the while, you can sow discord between the other 2. But you don't want to be too obvious about it. Just enough to keep them from cooperating at 100%. They will always be doubting and competing with each other instead of functioning at their best. Jared nodded thoughtfully as he listened. Ideally, if you embed yourself well enough, they will introduce you to another accomplice. Who? Jared asked, surprised. Jake never mentioned that they were involved with anyone else. He thought to himself, that's what I do not know. Olivia said as she added a dot of tea to the middle of her triangle visual on the table. But that is what I want to find out. Someone is pulling the strings at the center of the triangle. You might be able to discover who it is and inform us, Olivia said as she looked up at Jake. Olivia knew it had always been this mysterious person who was moving all the others around like chess pieces to target her. I must know who the mystery person is, Olivia thought, determined. Once I find out, I will enjoy exposing their identity to the rest of the world, and then I'll take them down. What if this person that's ordering the others around orders me to do something that will harm you? Jared asked seriously. Look at this guy. He's already thinking ahead and asking smart questions. This is why I need him, Olivia thought proudly. As long as they don't hurt my family, I don't mind you doing whatever it is you have to do to keep your cover, Olivia answered with no trace of hesitation. Wow, you really aren't afraid of anything, Jared said. He didn't quite know if he was impressed or alarmed. It was a mixture of both. Let's just say I've been through a lot, and there just isn't much that scares me anymore, Olivia said with a knowing smile. My team is one you want to be on, and I'll always look out for you no matter what. I never let a friend down. The proof is in anyone who has ever been close to me. Jared looked at Olivia's sincere smile, and he realized he felt touched. Olivia was confident and fiercely cared about her friends and family. She was kind to those that weren't about money or power, and those that were bullied or underappreciated. He felt safe and secure around her, and he trusted her. Jared realized that he had searched for those exact things his whole life, and had never found them in his own family. What a waste of good tea. Jeff shook his head at the triangle on the table. He poured another small cup and slid it in front of Olivia. Olivia chuckled mischievously. Okay, I will talk to Mark. I'll take this meeting with him tomorrow. Jared nodded. He had finally made up his mind. He was in. By the way, Olivia added as she seemed to have remembered something, Violet is the one who told Mark DeLillo that you're into vampires. What? Jared exclaimed. He sat back stunned and immediately understood why Mark went out of his way to approach him about Dracula. I thought Mark DeLillo was a vampire freak, but he was just saying that to get to me. Jeff laughed heartily in response. Mark really thought you were into vampires. Why are you laughing, Jeff? Violet also told Mark that you were into vampires too. Jeff's laughter suddenly stopped. They were the only guests in the tea house, so the place instantly fell silent. Olivia took a sip of her tea and smiled playfully. It's all coming together, she thought. Later, Jeff and Jared left the hidden tea house together. Olivia left the table where they had sat together and headed toward the back of the shop. She pulled back the curtain that obscured the hidden door and entered the secret room. She found Chris resting there on the bed with his eyes closed. Olivia walked over to him and carefully sat next to him on the bed. She reached out and gently drew her finger along the outline of his face. When she saw his eyelids flutter slightly, Olivia smiled. "I can tell you are pretending to be asleep." Chris opened his eyes and he looked at her with a gentle, adoring gaze. "I just like messing with you." "You like messing with me?" Olivia smiled and rolled her eyes. She affectionately traced her fingers along his eyebrows, down the bridge of his nose and across his lips. Chris kissed Olivia's fingertips and smiled. Then he suddenly flicked out his tongue to graze her finger. "Ah, sneaky!" Olivia laughed and tried to pull her hand back, but Chris quickly grabbed her wrist and kissed her palm. He looked into her eyes with so much warmth. "I think I want to take our relationship to the next level," he said softly. Olivia's heart raced excitedly when she heard Chris's words. She had thought a lot about when they might take this step together. Olivia noticed more and more that kissing Chris and feeling his arms around her didn't always feel like enough. She wanted more. And after everything they had been through, she finally knew how to be vulnerable with him, and she trusted him completely. In 2 lifetimes, she had never felt as close to anyone as she felt now to Chris. "Trust me? I have thought a lot about that too. I think about it all the time, actually," Olivia admitted sincerely. Chris's eyes lit up and he passionately kissed Olivia. She felt how his heart thudded in his chest as he pulled her close against him. Olivia felt her head spin from the feel and smell and taste of him, so much that she thought maybe something was really about to happen. But she knew that exact moment was not the right time just yet. "Not tonight," Olivia said as she pulled away and shook her head gently. "Why?" Chris asked. His voice was filled with disappointment and confusion. "I have other things I have to do tonight." Olivia smiled apologetically. She kissed Chris on his forehead. "We will have plenty of other opportunities in the future. I don't want to be rushed or distracted. Let's wait for a more special moment." "You're right," Chris sighed and kissed her lightly on the lips. "I always feel like the time I spend with you goes by so fast. It's never long enough," Chris said and looked sadly into Olivia's eyes. "I know," Olivia agreed. Chris wanted to distract himself from his disappointment, so he quickly changed the subject. "Carolina Crawford is in New York City." "I actually saw her recently," Olivia said, also grateful to have a distraction from the intense feeling she was trying to push down. She didn't see me, but it was definitely her. "The Crawfords and the Pells have a clear agreement," Chris explained. "Crawfords are not allowed to set foot in New York. If they absolutely have to, they have to get permission from the Pells. When that happens, I always hear about it. Carolina is definitely violating the rules." Olivia narrowed her eyes. "I hope she's not here looking for Millie." "You already know that in your gut that she is," Chris said. Olivia was stunned for a moment, and all she could do was smile at Chris. "He really knows me better than I even know myself sometimes," she thought. "You're right," she nodded. "You do know me really well." "I try, but I want to know you even more deeply," Chris said. He wrapped his arms around Olivia and pulled her close. He looked down and murmured into her hair. "I don't want to wait anymore. Olivia, will you marry me?" Did Chris really just ask me what I think he asked me? Did I fall asleep and this is a dream? Or am I just so tired that I'm hallucinating? Olivia could not believe that Chris had really just asked her to get married. Does he mean right now? "What did you say?" Olivia asked. She stiffened and leaned away to get a good look at his face. He couldn't possibly really mean that, could he? Chris saw Olivia's wary expression and his face felt hot. He could see the deep reluctance in her eyes. The words, "Will you marry me?" were caught in his throat, but he could not bring himself to say it again. He could not bear to see her reject it or retreat from him. All this time, I've loved her so much. I love Olivia more than anything, he thought. I know she loves me too, but it still feels like there's this hesitation from her. Olivia looked into Chris's eyes and saw the hurt there. She did not know how to tell him about her complicated feelings. If he says it again, I hope he realizes what he's really saying and reconsiders. Olivia remembered how young Chris still was, and she didn't know if he realized the seriousness of what he said. In her previous life, she had wanted nothing more than to fall in love and get married. But after what she had been through with Mark, she was afraid. That kind of commitment had opened her up to the most painful regret of her existence. My whole history is just impossible to explain to Chris in a way he would ever understand, Olivia thought sadly. Chris laughed uncomfortably. Never mind, I was just messing with you again. Sorry, it was dumb. Olivia could hear the tinge of sadness behind his smile, but she was relieved to hear him take it back for now. It was the wiser thing to do. She did love him a lot and didn't want to hurt him. She wanted more than anything to be able to explain her feelings and her fears, but she could not find the words. Right, okay, was all she said with a sigh of relief. Chris softly kissed Olivia's forehead. Come here, he said sweetly, and pulled her into his arms again. Is this okay? Yes, Olivia nodded. She relaxed into Chris's arms and leaned her head against his chest. She listened to the steady beat of his heart. She considered that in spite of how much stronger and more confident she was in her new life, she was still so soft and vulnerable when it came to love. She laughed in the faces of anyone who threatened her at school or in business. Her love for Chris was the only thing that still terrified her. Olivia had become more comfortable with her feelings for Chris over time. There had definitely been progress. She was used to accepting his affection and letting it make her happy. She let her guard down more, but she also recognized there was still room to be more open with him. She wanted him to know how she felt instead of keeping things so close to her chest. With how busy she was, they barely got to see each other. Olivia gently wrapped her arms around Chris and tightly held them there. Chris sensed Olivia's uneasiness. Hey, it's okay, he said comfortingly as he held her even more snugly. Olivia closed her eyes and she felt safe. Chris, she started to say. How can I tell him? I love him, and I want to be with him for the rest of my life, but at least for now, I don't know how to say it. Once I put it out there, I can't take it back. It's exposed, and I can't protect it. Olivia was afraid to make any promises. She didn't know how far her quest for revenge would take her, or if Chris could follow her all the way to the end without getting hurt. From the moment she opened her eyes and discovered her second chance at life, her chance at revenge, all she wanted was to take matters into her own hands and change her fate, along with that of everyone she cared about. There was no going back. She committed herself entirely to that one goal. But what if there's something else I want? Olivia wondered. She could barely think about it. Her plans were bigger than the two of them. Her priorities had always been so clear, but Chris complicated things. She was afraid to make him any promises that she wasn't sure she could keep. You don't have to explain, I understand. Chris kissed her forehead again. He held her in his arms and spoke to her softly. I know I'm not the best boyfriend or fiancé. I'm not always around, and I don't always do the romantic things that you deserve. I know you're busy with your own stuff too, but I don't make it any easier. I have so many responsibilities, but I will work harder to do better. I want to get through the difficult times with you, and I know there's a happy ending ahead. Once I get everything in order and settled, I'll go anywhere with you, anywhere in the world. That's all I want. I hope you want that too, and I'll wait for as long as you need. Olivia heard Chris's words, and for the first time, she could not stop the tears from escaping her eyes. She shook her head. You don't have to apologize. You've been amazing, she said. Thank you. Olivia looked at Chris's face through her tears and wiped her eyes. I do want that too. Then we'll wait for each other. To both be ready. Chris nodded. Olivia smiled and nodded back. Don't worry, I will get there as soon as possible. You won't have to wait long. I don't mind. I'm used to waiting for you. Chris laughed. She knew Chris was joking, but the idea of Chris patiently waiting for her made Olivia's heart hurt. I will be faster, I'll run. Olivia smiled. I've always been faster than you. Chris teased. He reached out and wiped the tears from Olivia's cheeks. I will wait until you tell me you really, really want to. That's the only way I want it. Okay. Olivia smiled and hugged Chris's neck. She leaned in and kissed him deeply. It felt like a promise between them. It moved from her lips down to her heart and into her very bones. She felt it in her soul. The kiss was lingering and sweet. She tasted the salt of her tears. She knew then without a doubt that his big question for her was real. The future that Chris described. It was so beautiful, it was like a dream. A dream about just the two of them. But it was all real, or at least she hoped it would be. Olivia finally pulled away and had to say goodnight. She clearly wanted to stay a little longer. Our time together is never enough, she thought wistfully. Chris smoothed Olivia's hair around her face. I'll take you home. He desperately wanted to spend more time with her. He could stay up all night and it would never be enough. Even just the drive home would at least give him a little more time than if she left alone. Olivia looked at Chris. If I let you take me home, I might not have it in me to ever let you leave, she thought. Instead, she looked in his eyes and nodded and said, Okay. On the way home, they sat in easy, comfortable silence while they listened to a pleasant song on the radio. Olivia couldn't really hear the song lyrics, and for all she knew, it was completely irrelevant to their mood at that moment. But she did know she would hold on to all of it as a precious memory. Chris pulled up the car to the front of Olivia's place. Olivia unbuckled her seatbelt and waved goodbye. See you later. Chris stopped himself from holding her again because he knew he'd never let her go, so he waved back. See you later. Neither of them knew how long later it would be. Olivia willed herself out of the car and closed the door behind her. She walked through the beams of lights coming from the car towards her. Chris waited until she made it into the building's lobby before he drove away. As soon as Olivia walked in, someone stood to greet her. Olivia, you're here, Olivia said. She seemed to be expecting him. Have you been waiting long? No, not long. He shook his head. Good. All right. Follow me. Olivia smiled and brought him into her apartment. Mom, Dad, Morgana, I'm back, she announced as they walked in. Why are you getting in so late? Victoria asked as she came out to greet Olivia. When she saw Olivia with another boy at the door, she was stunned. Hi, he said with a friendly wave. Mom, this is Jeremy, Olivia said. You've met him before, I'm pretty sure, Jeremy Garibaldi. Victoria raised an eyebrow. I wonder what he's doing here. Come on in. Have you eaten? I'll get you something, Victoria said as she waved Olivia and Jeremy inside and hurried off to the kitchen. That's really nice of her, Jeremy said shyly. She has to feed people. No matter what time it is, doesn't matter if they're hungry or not, it's just her thing. Olivia shrugged apologetically. It's very sweet and welcoming, Jeremy said appreciatively. Let's talk in my room. We'll have more privacy there, Olivia suggested. Okay. Jeremy nodded and followed Olivia to her room. On the way, he glanced at some cute pictures of Olivia from when she was younger that hung on the wall in the hallway. Oh yeah, those. Welcome to the Olivia Museum. I can answer any questions and there will be a gift shop at the end of the tour, Olivia joked. You were very cute, Jeremy said, then awkwardly corrected himself. You were, and you are, you know. He cringed at himself. It's okay. I know what you meant, Olivia laughed. She moved on toward her bedroom door. Morgana peered around the corner and saw Olivia and Jeremy shut the door behind them. She hurried into the kitchen to find Victoria. Do you think Chris knows about this? Is something going on, like more than friends? She asked. Victoria's brow furrowed. In truth, that was her first thought as well. but she didn't want to suspect her daughter of anything. "I don't think so," she said, trying to brush Morgana's concerns away. When Olivia and Jeremy walked into Olivia's room, they found Michael Johnson playing a video game on her TV. Michael quickly finished his game and looked up at them. "Jeremy," he said in surprise and stood to greet him. "Hello, sir." Jeremy nodded and waved. Hello," Michael said politely and looked at Olivia with a confused expression. Why did she bring a boy home at this time of night? He wondered. "Jeremy just flew in from across the pond." Olivia said, "You okay, Dad? You look concerned." No, it's nothing. You guys go ahead and talk," Michael said and moved to leave. "Actually, Dad, what we were going to discuss concerns you too," Olivia explained and motioned for Jeremy to sit in a chair while she sat on her bed. "Oh, something to do with me?" Michael blinked. He suddenly felt very nervous. Is Olivia about to tell me she's going to break off her engagement with Chris Jones and get involved with Jeremy instead? He worried about his teenage daughter just like any father. Olivia bringing a boy home late at night to have a serious discussion with him, her father, set Michael's imagination off in all sorts of anxious directions. Michael broke out into a cold sweat. If they have serious news to share, if they're in trouble, how will I handle this? This is very unexpected. But I thought she liked Chris. I was used to him. He swallowed nervously and looked at Olivia. Does Chris know about this? He asked gruffly. Know about what? About Jeremy? Olivia shook her head. I haven't mentioned it to him, no. Michael felt even more anxious and his thoughts spun out of control. Why do I know about this before Chris does? Will I have to be the one to tell him? Michael took a deep breath. Olivia, as far as I can tell, Chris has been a pretty good guy. I think he deserves to know the truth. I know, Olivia nodded, not understanding where Michael's mind was at. The two of us are in a really good place, now that you mention it. Olivia's mind went right back to the intimate conversation they had just shared earlier that night. She remembered their agreement to wait for each other until they were ready to take the next serious step. The tender sweetness of the moment still brought a smile to her face. She recalled how it felt to hold on to him while he wrapped her in his arms. Her heart quickened, and she felt warm all over just thinking about it. The idea of trying to explain any of that to her dad made her laugh. That's definitely not a conversation for tonight, she thought. Well, what is it then? Michael swallowed dryly, braced for the bad news. Dad, I want to... Olivia started, but before she could finish, Victoria knocked on the door and walked in. Sorry, don't mind me, Victoria whispered as she set down a plate of nuts and cookies and left. Dad. Olivia tried again now that her mom was gone. I want to merge the park company with Confluence. What? Michael asked, stunned. This was completely different than what his imagination had run wild with. It's not because of anything wrong. It's just part of a strategy for making some connections and consolidating some resources, Olivia explained. We're meeting our marks for the quarter, but the Rose Company is really pushing us. I think this will help, and I want to go for it ASAP. Olivia paused for a second and absorbed Michael's relieved face. What did you think I was going to say? Oh, nothing. Michael waved her off before he continued. It's an interesting idea, but how soon are we talking? Michael frowned as he thought about it. We can figure out how to make it happen. I can get a meeting together early tomorrow morning. Great, Olivia nodded. The other part of this is I want to get the Jarbaldis involved. The Jarbaldis? Michael looked at Jeremy curiously. Are the Jarbaldis getting into tech? I just acquired a small tech company in New York. We're new, but I've got some exciting stuff planned, Jeremy explained. Absolutely. I think a partnership with Confluence would be mutually beneficial, Olivia added. Plus, I trust Jeremy. Olivia smiled. It will be a good alliance. That sounds like a fine idea to me, Michael agreed. I'm ready to sign a contract as soon as you are, Jeremy said. No problem, Michael nodded. Just send it over and I'll take a look. Great, I'll do that right away. Jeremy smiled. We'll all move on this fast. Olivia grinned. Yes. Michael smiled and let out a long, relieved sigh. I'm just glad it's not what I worried it might be, he thought. I'll take anything over that, thank goodness. If that's all settled, I don't want to take up any more of your night. I know it's late, but I really appreciate it, Jeremy said, checking the time on his phone. My sister should be waiting for me downstairs. I'll walk you out. Olivia smiled and stood to follow Jeremy. She picked up some cookies from the plate her mom had left and wrapped them in a napkin before they walked out. Once they were in the elevator heading down to the lobby, Olivia handed Jeremy the package of cookies. Here, you can share them with Devin. She helped me a lot earlier. Please pass along a very big thank you from me. I will, Jeremy said. He held the cookies in his hand thoughtfully and looked up at Olivia with a complicated expression. How is everything with you and Chris? He asked, trying to sound nonchalant. Pretty good. Olivia nodded politely. How's your mom doing? She's also doing well. Jeremy nodded. We've been talking about you a lot. She misses you. I miss you, he said with a bittersweet smile. That's so sweet. When work settles down eventually, I'll make some time to visit her if she wants that. Olivia answered lightly. Thank you for coming all the way here. Of course, it was a good business trip, I'd say. Thank you for helping all of us Jarabaldis with this new business venture, and thank you for trusting me so much, Jeremy added. He looked into Olivia's eyes as he said it. Of course I trust you. Olivia smiled brightly. There aren't very many people I can trust in this world, but you are definitely one of them. I don't say that lightly, and it means a lot to me. I'm honored. Jeremy smiled back. You should be, Olivia teased. Jeremy laughed at Olivia's joking, serious expression, and he gazed at her wistfully. Olivia recognized that look, but she did not want to talk about what it might mean. Jeremy was her dear friend, and he meant so much to her, but not more than that. I'm going to be staying in New York City for a few more days if you want to get together again before I leave, Jeremy offered carefully. That's great, Olivia responded. I'll call around and get everyone together to hang out. We were going to talk about Confluence's new game tomorrow after school, but we've got time. Everyone has really missed you, and I'm sure they'll be happy to spend time with you before you go. What about you? Jeremy asked, still looking into Olivia's eyes. Have you missed me? Olivia was a little taken aback at Jeremy's direct question. She did not want him to press this issue. She cared about him so much as a friend, and she did not want to hurt him or mislead or encourage him in the wrong way either. How am I supposed to answer that question? Will he still want to go into business with me if I disappoint him? Have you missed me? As Jeremy's question hung in the air, Olivia's expression morphed into one of shock. It was as if a wave of unexpected emotions had crashed into her. Jeremy's gaze was tender yet intense, his eyes holding Olivia's in a soft but earnest look. There was a depth in his look, a yearning that transcended mere friendship. Olivia's lips parted, a myriad of responses swirling in her mind, but words seemed to evade her. A delicate blush crept across her cheeks, painting them a soft shade of pink, a visual testament to the turmoil within. Sensing her hesitation, Jeremy took a step closer, reducing the physical distance between them. His stare deepened as if trying to peer into her soul, patiently waiting for her to gather her thoughts. I've really missed you, Olivia, Jeremy confessed, his voice carrying a weight of sincerity that tugged at Olivia's heartstrings. As he spoke, his eyes never left her face, which he admired as though it were a masterpiece, the most beautiful thing in the world. Olivia's mind raced. This can't be happening, not now, she thought. After Chris, after he said he's ready to marry me, I feel closer to Chris than ever. What am I supposed to do with these feelings? Jeremy, meanwhile, was consumed by his own internal storm. I need to do something. Make a move, let her know. His thoughts were a whirlwind of hope and hesitation. Finally, summoning the courage, Olivia looked into Jeremy's eyes and admitted, "I missed you, Jeremy. A lot." She didn't mean it the way Jeremy wanted her to, but it was the truth. She had missed Jeremy. Their gazes locked, a whirlwind of unspoken words and emotions swirling between them. Jeremy's face lit up with a hopeful glow as he heard Olivia's admission. "Jeremy, you can't tell Chris about this," Olivia said quickly, her voice laced with urgency. He'd be jealous, you know?" Jeremy's expression shifted to one of curiosity edged with concern. "Does Chris have anything to be jealous of, Olivia?" Her heart fluttered with confusion, her feelings a tangled web she couldn't quite unravel. "No, I mean, it's not like that, it's just—" In a bid to divert the conversation from its increasingly treacherous path, Olivia hastily pointed at the cookies in Jeremy's hand. "You have to try one of those," she blurted out, her words tumbling over each other. "My mom makes them and they're literally the best thing ever. I mean, I don't even know what she puts in them. Maybe it's some kind of secret ingredient or something, but they're just so good. You bite into them and it's like every bad thing in the world just disappears for a moment. It's crazy, right? How can a cookie do that? But they do, and it's amazing, and you should try them. Definitely try them." Jeremy nodded, understanding the unspoken need to change the subject. He smiled gently, acknowledging her nervous ramble without judgment. Olivia took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Goodbye, Jeremy. Take care, okay?" "Good night, Olivia. Thanks for the cookies," Jeremy replied, his voice soft yet resonant in the quiet lobby. They hugged an embrace that lingered a little too long, a little too tight, blurring the lines of friendship and hinting at something more. Olivia's heart raced with the warmth of his embrace, both comforting and unsettling. "What am I doing? I can't hug Jeremy like this. This is only leading him on. What about Chris?" Olivia thought as she continued to hold on to Jeremy. But Jeremy... Olivia let her mind wander briefly until her consciousness kicked in. "No, not Jeremy. I can't let his affection for me confuse me. There's just Chris." Abruptly, she pulled away, her movements quick and slightly flustered. She offered Jeremy a small, awkward smile before turning back towards the elevator. Jeremy walked to the car, lost in thought. As Jeremy slid into the car, his sister Devin immediately noticed his contemplative demeanor. "Hey, what's up with you?" Devin asked, her voice tinged with concern. Jeremy glanced at her briefly, trying to muster a casual tone. "Nothing's wrong, Dev." Devin studied him skeptically. It wasn't like Jeremy to be so distant, especially after coming from Olivia's place. "Come on, Jer, I know you. Something's off. Spill it." Jeremy let out a small, resigned sigh, still avoiding her gaze. "Seriously, I'm fine." Devin wasn't convinced. "You always get this look when something's bothering you. What happened with Olivia?" Jeremy sighed again, his thoughts clearly still lingering on Olivia. After a moment of silence, he responded, "Nothing happened. We just talked about her supporting my new company venture, and she gave me these." He handed Devin the cookies. "Try one. Olivia said they're amazing," he added, attempting to divert the conversation. Devin accepted the bag, her eyes stayed fixed on her brother. "Jeremy, you're an idiot if you think I can't see what's going on. A blind man could see you've got feelings for her." Jeremy's face tightened slightly, a clear sign he was trying to steer away from the topic. "Just eat the cookies, Dev. Don't worry about my situation with Olivia." Devin turned to her brother, her voice carrying a blend of understanding and firmness. "Jeremy, I get it. You have a crush on Olivia, but you didn't make a move back there. You need to let her go." Jeremy remained silent, his gaze fixed on the passing city lights. Devin continued, "I've seen how much Olivia loves Chris. It's clear to everyone, Jeremy. Even you know in your heart that Olivia loves Chris Jones." Jeremy's expression was torn, a mix of longing and resignation. "But it's not just a crush, Devin," he finally said, his voice low. "I can't just get over Olivia. I'm in love with her. I've been in love with her for a long time. You don't understand what love is. You've never been in it. You don't know how this feels, so you can't offer your opinions or tell me what to do on a matter that's so beyond you." Jeremy sunk deeper into his seat, lost in his thoughts about Olivia. There has to be a chance for us, he thought. Does she feel what I feel? Suddenly, he was jolted out of his thoughts as Devin hit him with a cookie. "How dare you think you're better than me because you're in love?" she scoffed. "You either make a move or get over it, Jeremy. You're being pathetic." "Albert, stop the car," Devin commanded their driver. "We're going to a bar. We need drinks." Jeremy sulked. "I don't want to go to a bar, Devin." "No choice, bro," she retorted. "We're going, and you're going to face this head on. Either you deal with your feelings for Olivia or you start moving on. But this moping around, it ends tonight." The car slowed to a stop, and Devin waited for Jeremy to make his move. Across town, in the sleek, modern confines of Chris's apartment, he and Sven sat hunched over a series of articles and reports. The atmosphere was thick with concentration. Both men locked in, their focus razor sharp as they scored the news for anything that could help them unravel the web of crime and mystery they found themselves entangled in. Suddenly, Sven's eyes lit up. "Chris, I think I found something." Chris leaned in, urgency in his voice. "What is it, Sven?" Sven began reading aloud from an article, his voice steady but tingled with disbelief. A woman in Europe was found dead under mysterious circumstances. Her organs were missing. Local police suspect it's the handiwork of a known crime organization. Chris frowned, practical as ever. "The police will already be on it, Sven. It's not our concern." Sven, however, was not convinced. "I've been connecting dots, Chris. This crime organization, I think it's linked to the mysterious man involved with Mark and Beatrix." Chris's expression shifted from skepticism to shock. "Are you sure about this, Sven?" "Pretty sure," Sven replied, his tone serious. "I've been tracking their activities. The patterns match." Chris and Sven exchanged a look, the weight of the revelation hanging between them. How could Mark and Beatrix get tangled up with an organization like this? Chris pondered, his brow furrowed. "It's hard to say," Sven replied, his brows furrowed in thought. "Maybe it's about money, power, or something more sinister. We need to dig deeper." Chris stood up, pacing the room. "This is bigger than we thought. If Mark and Beatrix are really involved with these people, we're not just dealing with petty hitman jobs or corporate espionage." Chris sat back, his mind racing. "We can't waste time speculating. The longer we struggle to put these pieces together, the more dangerous Mark, Beatrix, and this mystery man become." Sven nodded in agreement, his face set in determination. "Get Dave Simon on this," Chris instructed, his voice firm. "We need to get to the bottom of this and fast. If this crime organization is as deep in the mix as you think, we're dealing with something much bigger than we anticipated." Sunday morning in Millie and Lena's apartment was a whirlwind of activity. They were eagerly preparing for their study group, and the air was filled with a sense of excitement and a little bit of chaos. "Lena, could you please put the rabbits away? We don't want them hopping around when everyone's here," Millie called out from the kitchen. Lena, who was in the midst of setting up the living room, replied without missing a beat. "On it, Millie." Her leg was feeling better lately, so she was able to move around without the help of her wheelchair. She quickly scooped up the pair of fluffy rabbits, deftly maneuvering them into her room and gently closing the door behind them. Just as she finished, she called out to Millie. "Hey, did you remember to put out Francis's favorite snacks? You know how picky he can be." Millie responded with a hint of pride in her voice. "Got it covered. Cheese twists, salted caramel popcorn, and those weird seaweed chips he likes. Arrange them in a smiley face, just for added charm." Lena peeked into the kitchen and smiled at the sight of Francis's snack arrangement. "Perfect, Millie. He's going to love it." As they were making the final touches, a knock at the door sent a jolt of excitement through them. Millie practically skipped to the door, her heart racing with anticipation. However, the moment she swung the door open, Her expression froze in utter shock and disbelief. Standing there was Frances, accompanied by a girl. Frances, looking somewhat shy and awkward, greeted Millie first. "Hey, Millie, this is my friend Georgina." Georgina, with a smile so perfect it seemed almost plastic, chimed in cheerily. "Hi, Millie, so lovely to meet you." Millie's mind went blank for a second, struggling to process the unexpected guest. Finally, she managed a somewhat flustered greeting. "Oh, hi, Frances. Georgina, welcome." She stepped aside, awkwardly motioning them into the apartment. Her movements were stiff, her mind still reeling from the surprise. Lena, who had come to see who was at the door, stopped dead in her tracks. Her eyes widened in shock as she saw Frances enter with Georgina. Lena's gaze darted between Frances and Georgina, trying to piece together this unexpected development. Georgina stepped closer to Frances, her smile unwavering. Lena's face fell, a look of hurt flashing in her eyes as she observed their closeness. "Hi, Lena, great to see you again." Georgina greeted her with a fake bubbly enthusiasm. Lena, overwhelmed and unable to muster a response, quickly turned and rushed off to the kitchen without a word to Georgina. In the kitchen, Lena leaned against the counter trying to collect her thoughts. The unexpected arrival of Georgina, especially in Frances's company, had thrown her off balance. Back in the living room, Millie attempted to break the awkward silence. "So, Frances, we weren't expecting a +1 today. How do you two know each other?" Frances, looking slightly uncomfortable, glanced at Georgina before replying. "Oh, Georgina and I go way back. We're old family friends." Georgina chimed in with a laugh that sounded a bit too rehearsed. "Oh yes, Frances and I have known each other since we were in diapers. Isn't that right, Frances?" Frances nodded, a forced smile on his face. Millie couldn't help but notice how Georgina seemed to command the conversation, with Frances playing a more passive role. Trying to lighten the mood, Millie joked, "Well, I hope you don't still share diapers. That would be a bit awkward at this age, wouldn't it?" Georgina laughed a little too loudly, while Frances just managed a weak chuckle. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken questions and curiosity. Millie, ever the gracious host, decided to move things along. "Well, let's get started with the study group. Lena's got some snacks ready in the kitchen. Georgina, I hope you like seaweed chips." Georgina's smile faltered for a moment. "Seaweed chips? Oh, how exotic. I can't wait to try them." As the group shuffled towards the living room to start their study session, Sam Feinstein emerged from the bathroom. His eyes widened in shock as he took in the scene. Frances, Lena, Millie, and, to his surprise, Georgina all gathered in the kitchen. Millie, what's the deal with Frances and Georgina?" Sam asked, his voice laced with confusion and curiosity. Millie caught Sam's eye and subtly shook her head, a silent signal that now was not the time to delve into it. "Everyone, let's sit down and focus on studying, okay?" she suggested, trying to steer the group's attention back to the task at hand. The group migrated to the living room, the air thick with unspoken questions and tensions. Georgina, with a calculated grace, immediately took a seat next to Frances. Lena, witnessing this, couldn't hide her shock and annoyance. Her gaze lingered on Georgina, her mind racing with thoughts. "I can't stand her," Lena thought, seething internally. That fake, perfect face, those perfect teeth, everything about her just screams insincerity. I don't trust her, not one bit. Sam leaned in close to Millie and whispered, "What's going on with the Wicked Witch from Europe?" His eyes darted towards Georgina as he spoke. Before Millie could respond, the apartment door opened again, and Olivia and Morgana walked in. Their face immediately contorted into frowns, as if they had walked into an invisible wall of odor. "Oh, what is that smell?" Morgana complained, wrinkling her nose. "It's like loud, strong, repellent perfume." "It smells like Georgina," she added, her tone dripping with disdain. Olivia nodded in agreement. Yeah, definitely the stench of Georgina Crawford. The pair entered the living room, their expressions shifting from annoyance to shock as they took in the scene. Sam Feinstein, Lena, Francis, and Georgina were all there, with Georgina strategically positioned between Francis and Lena. Olivia and Morgana exchanged a look of mutual disbelief. Georgina's gaze met Olivia's as she entered the room, her eyes glittering with a bitchy challenge, as if daring Olivia to confront her. Olivia, unfazed, returned the stare with equal intensity. "Well, if it isn't Olivia," Georgina greeted her with a smugness that was hard to miss. Olivia, not missing a beat, retorted, "I can't believe you're here, Georgina, and in my seat, no less." Georgina feigned innocence. "I didn't realize this study group had assigned seating." "Oh, but we do," Olivia shot back. "You see, my friends and I, we're real friends. We know you don't just sit in between a couple. It's like basic friend etiquette." Francis, caught in the middle of this exchange, looked increasingly awkward and uncomfortable, wishing he could just melt into the background. Lena, meanwhile, averted her gaze from the unfolding drama, silently wishing she could disappear into thin air. Olivia's tone was firm as she addressed Georgina. "You need to move, Georgina." But Georgina, putting on a facade of sincerity, responded, "I just wanted to get to know Lena better." Morgana, always quick to come to her friend's defense, chimed in, "Trust me, Lena already doesn't like you. There's no reason to force it. She can spot a snake from a mile away. And Lena doesn't want to get to know snakes because, unlike you, she only likes rabbits." Georgina's face betrayed a flicker of irritation at Morgana's words, but she quickly masked it. She knew that any reaction might jeopardize her plan to win over Francis. Despite wanting to engage in a verbal spar with Olivia and Morgana, Georgina recognized that it wouldn't serve her purpose if everyone turned against her. With a forced smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, Georgina gracefully stood up, her every movement calculated to appear unbothered. Olivia promptly took the vacated seat, her eyes never leaving Georgina, as if silently marking her territory. Georgina, with a well-rehearsed stumble, accidentally tripped on Francis's foot. To steady herself, she dramatically grabbed his inner thigh, her actions a little too deliberate to be accidental. Olivia, Morgana, Lena, and Millie all simultaneously rolled their eyes at Georgina's theatrics. The gesture was so transparently calculated that it was almost comical. It was obvious that Georgina was playing a game, and the four friends saw right through it, their disdain for her antics growing. "What a bitch," every girl thought. "Look at that, now Olivia's sitting between the couple," Georgina pointed out, her voice dripping with feigned innocence. Lena, unbothered, quickly replied, "I'm perfectly fine with Olivia sitting there." Lena and Francis exchanged shy, uncomfortable glances, unsure of how to navigate the awkwardness Georgina was creating. Olivia, seizing the opportunity, launched her verbal sparring with Georgina. "So, Georgina, what brings you to our humble abode of learning? Enlighten us with your vast intellect." Georgina, attempting to match Olivia's sarcasm, replied, "I'm here to expand my horizons. It's always good to learn new things, don't you think?" "Oh, absolutely," Olivia shot back with a grin. "Like I just learned about the Dunning-Kruger effect in psychology. It's this cognitive bias where people with low ability at a task overestimate their ability. Fascinating, right?" Georgina, clearly confused but trying to maintain her composure, scoffed, "Right, because obscure psychological references are totally relevant to our study group." Olivia leaned in, her voice dripping with mock concern. "Oh, my apologies. That might have been too complex. Let me simplify. It means the less skilled people are, the more superior they think they are. Ringing any bells, Georgina?" The tension in the room ratcheted up as Georgina's smile faltered. "You know, Olivia, being condescending isn't a personality trait. It's just annoying." Olivia's gaze hardened, a clear threat in her eyes. And pretending to be something you're not is even worse, Georgina. We all know you're playing a game here. Would you like me to spell it out for everyone?" Georgina's confidence wavered under Olivia's unyielding stare. She realized that Olivia was dangerously close to revealing something she'd prefer kept under wraps.